Welcome back everybody, this is Wraith, and today I'm going to be chilling out at the crossroads while I talk about a new item that's come out, which is the Claw Arm. Now I'd love to use this against a set of monsters that only has light monsters, but I don't know if there is one. Well, there's not one in the crossroads. I believe there is one, there's some other places, but I can't be bothered to go there, at least at the moment. And so I'm just going to be hanging out with random FO or FD Ranger setup. Nothing too complicated. Actually, that's synergy because it's auto hit. But the claw arm is a new weapon that's come out with the update. With the update to the May the 4th limited time shop. So what it does is it has two modes, and you're seeing the defensive mode right now. And the defensive mode, what it does is first of all, it's auto hit, so 0.85 damage. Then it takes a minus 30% damage additive penalty, and it inflicts 121% Ellie Vuln for one turn, and it gives you about the same as an Ellie shield, so 21.25%, which is identical. And so that is the whole thing, the whole purpose of the weapon. Auto hit, Ellie Vuln, and Ellie shield. Now, why am I using Fire Pets with Darkness Ellie Vuln? To be honest, because I forgot. So let's fix that up real quick. But when I saw this, when it came out on release, you may have seen that video, or may not. No, who cares? Let me just get all my stuff set up. Actually, I want this, but... Okay, there we go. But when I saw this weapon, I was like, that has to be nuts, right? Like, that has to be a top pick. Because for anyone who isn't super aware, there actually aren't that many solid Darkness 100 procs. Now, there's like 2 package items that kind of work pretty well, but I'm not going to go through those because they're packages. So I'll go through options that I think are at least a little bit meta viable. So the first one, Eclipsed Dragonlord's Patience. That's a dark weapon that heals like 60 or so SP per attack, per turn. Just like the HGL weapons. Very normal, very standard. We had a ton of those. But I really like those weapons. I really like the SP efficiency. I think they're just a huge help. I think they're very good for resources. So why am I comparing a resource regeneration weapon to the dark defensive utility Ellie Vuln weapon? Well, part of the reason is because actually turn on. Part of that is because there's not much to go around for Dark 100 procs, and part of it is because I view getting extra SP. Oh, let's see, we got 9 Z tokens. Awesome. Part of that is because I view getting extra SP kind of as like getting extra access to more defensive utility. So like if you have more SP, you can run a misc for longer, you can do whatever. But so having more SP, you can kind of channel it into defenses, but also it's just a good Dark 100 proc, so I'm gonna compare it to Claw Arm. And I think they do different things, so you can't say one-to-one like, oh, this is always gonna be better. But 20% Ellie shield is pretty good. I mean 20% damage reduction. I don't know. Now the big thing is about this weapon that I don't know if I said, it's on a save roll. So if you are going to be using it, you have to win the save roll. I think it's dexterity versus dex. Let me check that. Yeah, it should be dex versus dex. So most monsters have dexterity, so you won't usually win the roll completely. But the fact is, you're going to be using this in Luna Neko a lot, and you're going to be using this in Soul Neko a lot. Both of which have a luck drive, so you're a lot more likely to win the minor roll. And as I say that, let me actually turn that on real quick. Definitely not optimal to use dark here, but I don't really care. So I would say you probably have like a 75% infliction chance in an average setup. Maybe that's a slight, maybe like 70% or 65%, depending on what misc you're running. If you run a Dex Luck misc, it's cooked for this guy, or any monster. Dex Luck plus Luna Neko will give you like 80% almost every time. Dex Luck plus Soul Neko will give you like 75% probably. But anyways, it's not that deep. you have a solid to good infliction chance of getting not only the Ellie Bone for your pet and guest, but also the Ellie Shield for yourself. I think that's quite strong, and I think usually it'll outcompete the SP regeneration you'd get from Eclipsed Dragonlord's Patience. Now the next one is a pretty underground option, but it's the Eldritch Necromancer Bow. And what that does is it's simply a weapon that has a trigger on Fear, Bleed, and Burn. And for each one it gains plus 4.25 PTH. Now why am I bringing up that random weapon? Well, so the Fear trigger I think is pretty random. Like you're not gonna have Fear on most of the time unless you're using Necromancer, but like anyways, I don't really value the Fear trigger very much, but I do value the Burn and Bleed trigger because both Soul and Moon and Echo can passively inflict Burn and Bleed, so getting that trigger a lot of the time. The thing is, it pays the MC, to my understanding, it pays the MC to get that trigger, so at best case, you're getting 2 MCs worth of trigger, and at worst case, you're getting -1 MC, because it has a down trigger. So like it's not much better than just like a normal MC to accuracy weapon, so I don't really think that it's a good weapon, but it is like something you could possibly use. But like, not a competitive option is what I'm saying about Eldritch Necromancer Bow. But I wanted to bring it up because, you know, it's mildly interesting. I've never... Oh! Yeah, I forgot to switch gear. Solid gold is light res, right? Oh. Alright, now we're going to hit some 150s. So I think... Does the Ellie Shield scale? I don't think it does. But either way, you'll see soon. But anyways, another weapon I wanted to show, and again, this is a pretty niche weapon, but it's the Mechanite Bow. Now the Mechanite Bow basically inflicts 7.5 death loss. I can see how in some Beastmaster setups, you'd rather have the offensive death loss compared to the defensive Ellie Shield or Ellie Bone. Do you ever want death loss that's based off your hit accuracy over auto-inflict Ellie Bone if you're using Beastmaster gear? Probably not. Also, the Ellie Shield and Ellie Bone don't scale with resistance, of course. I forgot about that, but they don't. So I don't think Mechanite Bow is actual competition for this, but I just wanted to bring it up. You know, there's so little to talk about with Dark 100 procs, may as well mention it. So the next one is a weird one, and it's Screaming Bow, which is a Mastercraft bow with -10 BTH lean, so it does about 1.1x damage. But the thing is, it has a plus 20% damage on a Fear trigger. So if the monster is feared, you'll pump out numbers, and it's actually the highest damaging dark bow in the game, aside from maybe one package item, but I think it's actually still higher. So that will pump out numbers if you have a Fear trigger. The thing is, how are you going to randomly get a Fear trigger with a dark setup? Well, there's a couple options. You could, if you happen to have the Snurtle pet or guest, you could use that. I think it's a pet that trades half damage for Fear. There's got to be another Dark Fear pet out somewhere that's gold cost. The first thing I'm thinking of is the Skelly Brain pet, but I know that one is actually Paralyze, not Fear, or Daze or something. I don't know. But there's got to be like a Darkness Fear pet you could use. So then, like, because you're going to be using a Darkness weapon, presumably you'd use a Dark pet as well. But I actually can't think of it off the top of my head. Okay, so I didn't want to spread information, so I took a few minutes to look it up in Ward's spreadsheet. Thanks, Ward. There's two 50% Fear Dark pets, which are the Terror Set pet and the Custom Zard, believe it or not. Custom Zard is underrated, I'm going to say, but anyways, that's a different conversation. There's a Fire Fear pet, the Ghostly Infernal Skull. There's, of course, one really obvious one, Creature 72, which I totally forgot about. Snurtle does what I thought it did. It does do Fear. Let's see, I think there's one more. Oh, but there's actually one thing I thought was interesting is you've got the Communicant pet, which does Fear, and we've also got the Osiris Light pet, which do Fear, and those do Fear reliably every turn. But again, theoretically, you wouldn't want to use those because you're doing dark damage with a weapon. But anyways, what I'm saying is you can definitely make the Screaming Bow work, and it will pump numbers if you do get that Fear trigger relative to every other dark damage option. But realistically, it's probably not worth it to do a little more damage. but you have to like spend resources setting up the fear, so probably not worth it, but maybe worth it for some rare players. But yeah, that's the Screaming Bow from the Friday the 13th LTS if you're really interested. I think there could be some fun setups. If they ever release a permanent fear, obviously that'll be like a really good damage option. So you inflict it once and then you just go to town. Or if they inflict, or there's an item that does a passive fear. I think the Terror Misc does a passive fear, but I can't be bothered to, optimize that. It's a good damage bow, but you have to put in effort to make it work. Agony's Bow, I forget the exact name, it's like Dark Agony's Bow or something. You get it from either the Guardian Tower or Adder's Shop or something. It has like MC to burn. It's like a power 1.2 burn or something. It's nothing to be all excited about. I would say this weapon definitely outweighs that. Like, yes, burn is FD's domain, and we love burn synergy with Neko, but like, you're getting more burn out of the passive by a vast margin. Passive from the armor than you would be from the weapon. So I would say this weapon definitely better for stacking burn because it's auto hit, so you'll never miss. But also it's just nicer to have. Also, it's 3 hits compared to 2, I believe. In the damage mode, it's 3 hits. Let me actually show you the damage mode real quick. Yeah, just 3 little bombs. Basically, Power Crept, Silent Star. I'm kidding about that halfway. But Silent Stars is another 3-hit ranged weapon. 100 proc. Anyways, the last one that I'm going to compare is Storm Shadow, which is a dark energy compression bow that compresses a burn mode as well. But you pay 20 SP, 20% melee SP, so like 75 or whatever, 80. Yeah, about that. Some close to that, 78 maybe. And you get only half the burn you pay for because it compresses 4 modes, so you pay double SP to get that value. So that's why I don't really like the bow. It's definitely a good bow. But I don't love the burn mode on it, so I don't really like to recommend it. But that's everything I could find for remotely viable Dark 100 procs. And I think the only thing that this potentially loses to is Eclipsed Dragonlord's Patience. Storm Shadow, if you're willing to pay boatloads of SP to get more burn, and again, it's a tiny burn, like power 4 burn overall for 20 or like 80 SP, which I don't know, maybe, but. Or if you're running a funky fear setup, you could use the Screaming Bow to do very high damage. But I think the defensive utility of this weapon is really nice. I think the Elevon for Pets and Guests is really nice. And I think having auto hit is really nice, even though you are going to be doing less damage, because it does auto hit. You do have that Elevon stacking, because it's a 1-turn Elevon, you'll get, I think you'll eventually get turns where you have 2 turns of Elevon stacked, at least for your pet and guest, maybe not for the player. But I like that about it as well. Although, to be fair, actually, it should be a 0-turn Elevon, but maybe updated at one point to be 0 turns instead of 1. So it won't stack, obviously, but I doubt it'll happen, to be honest. They're so behind on updates, but I mean, maybe it will. It probably should. If they need to get consistent about Elevon, because it used to be they would have like, you pay for 4 turns of Elevon, you get a 4-turn Elevon. Then they were like, well, if Elevon still works on the 0th turn, it should only give you 3 turns if you pay for 4 turns of Elevon. Like, that makes perfect sense, very logical. It is a nerf, but, not a big deal, not the end of the world. But they've been applying it really inconsistently and basically forgetting 75% of the time, and this is one of those 75% where they forgot. So anyways, just my thoughts, and I think that's pretty much it for the weapon that I wanted to talk about in theory. And next, a Banshee Messenger. Interesting. First time I had to switch out of my darkness damage setup, which is interesting. Let's use classic Fairy Godmother. I'm so excited to have this thing. Very fun. I think Friendship Bracelet has a light gust. Oh, can I click this? Oh, it doesn't have a light gust. Oh well. In that case, we'll use water or earth. Let's use the warrior. Why not? Get rid of that. Go back to stat thing. But yeah, so I'm actually going to clean up this kill, and then I'm going to go over to Queen Rachel, and you're just going to watch that kill sped up at like high speed, because I'm not going to be doing anything interesting. I'm just going to be basic attacking with the weapon and my pen guest. But I think it should be pretty interesting. Actually, one thing I'll tell you before I get into it, just so I don't have to explain it during the fight, is I'm going to be using the Kerguinbo pet. The Kerguinbo pet is a dark pet that also applies an Ellie shield to the player, based off of the monster's dark resistance. The weapon doesn't use dark resistance, Kerguinbo does, and I think comboing these against light bosses could be pretty fun. That being said, I couldn't think of too many actually difficult light bosses. I mean, I'll give it another think, but I couldn't think of anything, so next up you'll see me battling Queen Rachel in high speed. Okay, I said Queen Rachel was next, but I forgot about Tibbles. Also, I mentioned we didn't have any difficult light bosses. That totally isn't true. It's just that Baurus has low dark resistance, so there's not really a point to using dark gear, or to testing dark gear against him. But with that being said, I'm going to speed up this clip of me taking on Tibbles. Okay, so reviewing that battle, you may not have noticed if you were just hanging out, but I took like 2k at the beginning from his water attack, because I forgot to switch armors. But aside from that, I thought it went super smooth. I don't know how much work the Ellie shields were doing, because the pet didn't inflict every turn, and the weapon didn't inflict every turn, but I do think that they were a substantial benefit. And I never missed against him, of course, and because he has a really low damage cap, it doesn't really matter. Let's use more bleed, I guess. I don't know. Or let's use Skelly Ball. Yeah, why not? It didn't really matter that I was doing low damage with the auto hit and damage penalty, because he has a damage cap. So the same would apply to Baurus if he was a boss that that had dark resistance, but you know, is what it is. Overall, I think the weapon performed pretty well. Nice to have the auto hit, nice to have the reliability, and I'll see you at the end of this seemingly very quick, because of the stacking Ellie Vuln, kill of Queen Rachel. Okay, so all in all, I'm a huge fan of this weapon. I think it performed very well. That low-key, that could have been a showcase more of the Ninja Lawyers and Kerguinbo against 200 dark resistance. But to be honest, I really couldn't find many interesting light bosses. So if you think I should test it out against something else, let me know. I won't make another second full video on it, but I might put it at the end of an easy one or a shorter video. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of this weapon. I think a lot of Ranger players will really enjoy it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this analysis and test run. See you guys later. Spread some peace and love, and have a great day.